Welcome back. Okay, so like I said, we're now moving into triggering. So here you are, here's the nervous system, here's the brain, and the brain gets triggered, and then we have the amygdala here. This work comes from Daniel Siegel. He talks about, he's an educational psychiatrist, and he brings his hand out and he talks about how people go around in the world and something happens and they get triggered, and when that person's triggered, it triggers somebody else, and then you have the attuned relationship. So what do you do when somebody's triggered? So today we're going to be talking about a coaching model which comes from David Rock, which is a coaching model that you use to bring a triggered client, prefrontal cortex, back online so that they can learn a new way to respond. So when a client is triggered, there are 5 things that we need our clients to be made aware of. The first thing is status. How is their status being affected? If somebody's married and because of their substance abuse, they're now getting divorced, their status is no longer one of a married person, but somebody who's been divorced. Or if they're losing their job, they're no longer employed, they're unemployed. And when that happens, it triggers some uncertainty. People like to know what the future holds, what's going to happen. And we'll see that with a lot of our clients. They don't know what to happen and what to do. And so they'll come to you and say, what must I do? What must I do? What must I do? And people will tell people what to do. But the strange thing is, as soon as somebody gets told to do something, there's a natural resistance because people like to have autonomy. Actually, they don't like to be told what to do. And when somebody comes up with a solution themselves, they can follow that. The next one is relatedness. People need to be explained what is going on and why. If people don't relate, why can't I get involved in a relationship? Why can't I do this? If they don't relate to it, then it ain't going to happen. So you need to engage in a way to find out and explain and to coach so they get to relate. And the final trigger is fairness. People like to be treated fairly. And people with substance misuse disorder or mental health in general are treated very fairly. And the family members are treated very unfairly. And the whole chaotic environment is unfair. And you'll have a whole family that will come across where everyone in the family is triggered. That's why here at the clinic, in our recovery wellness program, we work with our clients on a daily basis post-treatment, and every Wednesday we have the family members come in to be part of the group. We have a group where we just deal with the family members first. So we bring the clients back, we get the family members and the clients together because the family members have been impacted by this. And the family members are often triggered. The family members have learned how to respond in a culture of addiction. Now their loved one has moved to a culture of recovery. It's triggering for the family members. The family members often think it was their fault, and we need to remind them as it comes from Naranon that they didn't cause it, they can't cure it, they can't control it. And it's very difficult for the family members to come back online. And what needs to happen in the family system going back is how can we be supportive? So these guys often want to know how they can help. Yeah, and they're so used to being caught in the chaos, they don't know how to let the client go and help themselves and to move on to their own recovery. So I'll often speak to the parents and say, well, when last did you two go on a date? What is it that you'd like to do? It becomes complex, and remember, recovery isn't an event, it's a process, it's a continuum. We start the process. The whole family needs to move in towards a culture of recovery based around a culture of spirituality. So if it's a Muslim family, or if it's a Jewish family, a Christian family, a black family, a white family, it doesn't really matter. A poor family, a rich family, you want to move the whole system towards a culture of recovery. And it's complex. It's complex. People's roles get challenged and they're triggered. And when people are triggered, you can't do anything until the prefrontal cortex comes back online And then we can talk about how does this family or individual want to grow. So grow is another coaching model that is based for the prefrontal cortex. So what is the goal? What is the reality? What are your opportunities? And how are we going to wrap this session up? So a lot of people in recovery, they come out and they say, right, I've stopped taking drugs. Now I want to run a business. The reality is, great. You haven't been involved in business for years. It's unrealistic. And the reality is, you've got no business experience. So even though there's a lot of enthusiasm to run the business and to do something, the reality is the client's not there. Now, people in a culture of addiction, they're very used to instant gratification, short-term relief, long-term pain. And a culture of recovery is short-term pain for long-term relief. So you need to engage with your client and get them to realize that their goal isn't realistic. And then we move into things like SMART goals. So they're simple, measurable, achievable, SMART, realistic, and are they time-bound? And so when you're working with your clients, you can start to have conversations where they start to build recovery capital, which is realistic for their environment. And the most successful coaching interventions, the client keeps coming back and stays engaged. There's some research out from Australia, Voices and Faces of Recovery, that show that people in long-term recovery, their first year often had bumps, ups and downs. And if you can engage with that client, even though there's possibly using along the way, even though the family and everyone else might think that's a failure, with you, if you can stay engaged, I promise you, after a while, your client will move on. Or they die. And that's the harsh reality of this. And your clients do die. Not very many. There's a lot more fear around that. So remember always to have supportive vision as well, to help you with what's going on and to be supportive of you as you're in this crisis, chaos, and conflict. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.